Good morning and welcome to America's Home Cooking. Today, for people who have never canned whey, I'm going to show you, and I'm also going to show you how it works, because you can can heavy cream and you can can milk as well, the same way I'm going to do the whey. It's all done this way. Now, if you can heavy cream and milk, from that you can make your yogurt, you make your sour cream, you can make buttermilk, you can make butter, you can make half and half, and you can make your light cream if you have enough, because all of that is made basically from those two ingredients. So, because this is going to be called a cold pack, because we cannot put things into hot jars and stuff. What we're going to do is, I cleaned my jars, I washed them, and what I'm going to do is put them in the oven. Put them in the oven before you turn it on, because you don't want the hot oven and then you put these jars in and they crack. You want to start them all on the same level. Put it on bake, and you're going to drop down to 220. Now, when it hits 220, you're going to have to bake those jars for exactly 20 minutes. Then you're going to take them out and put them on a towel so they can cool. Like I said, this is a cold pack. We're going to start everything cold, or room temperature if you wish to say it that way. Now, the reason we're using 220 is that's boiling point. That's why you have to use 220. Right now I am drying my lids. So, now whey, you can use it for gravies, stews, soups, cook your rice in, cook your pasta in. I usually use it for my stocks, whichever one I have on hand at the time, and I pour in however much I want to use, and then I finish filling it up with water, and that's whey. Nothing is to waste. Plus you get the nutrients. Now some people, I've tried it though it's not overly fond, is they can drink the whey and just make it a cold drink. It's not my favorite. I can drink it, but I'm not overly fond of it. You can also use it in bread making, which I have used. I've used it when I didn't have enough milk. I sat there and I would use it for biscuits. So it has a lot of uses that it can be used. And this is a byproduct of making cheese. Now, if you wish to make sour cream, you take a quart of heavy cream, bring it to a boil, turn it off. Let it cool down to 108 degrees, and then you add in a couple of tablespoons, about a couple of tablespoons of yogurt, and you put it in your yogurt maker. And I set mine for 8 hours. And then I take it and I stick it into the refrigerator. You'll notice that it's not quite what you want it, but you set it in the refrigerator and it's going to chill up. Then the next morning, what I do is I get a towel and I'm going to strain it. Now, the whey that drips through the towel, and this is where you control how thick or how thin you want your sour cream. You take that whey and you can cook with it just like the whey from the other stuff. Now, if you want to make yogurt, you sit there and you heat the milk up to boiling. Then you turn it off, chill it to 108. Add a little less than 2 tablespoons of your culture, your yogurt culture that you make, not the one you buy in the store, because the one you buy in the store doesn't have that much, and it has an expiration date that it'll die, so you're always going to have that problem. So you have to start from scratch, which I've already showed you how to do. Now, if you wish to make half and half, all what you need is 1/4 of a cup of heavy cream and 3/4 of milk. shake it up. You got your half and half. Now, if you wish to make light cream, it is 1/3 a cup heavy cream and 2/3 regular milk. Now, if you buy fat-free milk or those other ratios, you will notice that your half and half and your heavy cream aren't as rich in flavor. Now, if you get the health food one, and you use that one, you'll notice the flavor is richer. So it's according to how you use that, which milk you use, which will dictate how rich it is or how weak it is in those. But you can do that. Now, if you want to make butter, all what you need is heavy cream. You sit there and you whip it, well, actually beat it until it separates, and you'll actually see it separate. And the way that you get from the butter, you can sit there and use that as well to cook with. But when you're done and it has separated, you have to take the butter and rinse it in cold water, and you squeeze it and squeeze it to get all the water out of it, and you keep on squeezing. When you get it all out, it's a solid block. And what you can do is you can sit there and put it in containers, or you can block it with your hands and wrap it in wax paper and stick it in the freezer, which I've done as well. Now, all of these things, all what you need is heavy cream and milk to make, and that's it. And both of these can be canned. I tried canning buttermilk. That did not work. Tried canning sour cream. That did not work. There's some things that you cannot in yogurt. You cannot can those. You have to make them. But once you get those cultures going, it's very easy for the yogurt. You can keep that yogurt going, and the buttermilk you can keep on going. The buttermilk you're going to have to buy, but once you buy it and you sit there and you replace it constantly, you have that culture going. I gave a video on how to do buttermilk, but if you wish, I'm going to explain it again. You're going to sit there. Okay, hold on a minute. Okay, when you do the buttermilk, you're going to need 3.5 cups of milk. Now you're just going to warm it up till it's body temperature or a little chilled to your touch, very little. You pour that into a jar, pour in 1/2 cup of buttermilk that you buy from the store. You shake that up for a good minute. Open the lid because it's going to have a lot of gas, and you sit there, just lay the cap on very gently, wrap a couple of towels around it, and leave it for 8 hours. Now, if it's a hot day, it's going to become buttermilk faster. Now, if it's a cold day, it can take up to 3 days. But what I like to do is have a backup. Before I ever touch that backup, I will make a new batch because I go through it very quickly. I use a lot of buttermilk, I use a lot of yogurt, so these two are constantly rotating, so I always have my backup. Now, if you go to make yogurt, you need to warm your milk up, and I use cardamom seeds. I use about 10 or 12, but most people can sit there and they'll use a lemon that you slice from end to end and just lay it in the cut side down, or you can put a hot pepper in it. Well, the hot pepper and the lemon I did not like, but the cardamom I enjoyed very much, the seeds. And what you do is you set it after you warm it up. You don't want it hot, you just want it warm. You put the seeds into the milk, cover it halfway, and put it in a warm spot so we can catch the microbes there. When you get into how long did it take? I think 3 to 5 days, might be sooner, it depends upon the weather. All right, you'll notice it almost becomes like a pudding state. That's what you're looking for. Then what you're going to do is you are going to sit there and I did it by the quarts. If you wish, you could do a pint jar if you wish, but I do a quart. So what I did was I heated the milk up to a boiling point, a quart of milk, turned it off, turned it down. I boiled it. I waited till the temperature dropped down to 108. And then what I added in was the yogurt, little bit of culture that I have, which is about, you want to do a little less than 2 tablespoons. Put it in your yogurt maker, let it sit for its time frame. Usually it's 8 hours. Now when you open it, it's going to have a strong cardamom smell, but stick it into the refrigerator. Now it's going to be a little watery, but don't worry about it. That usually happens. It's the next yogurt that will be better. what you do is you sit there and put a quart of milk on, bring it to a boil, let it cool down to 108 degrees. Add 2 tablespoons of that yogurt that you just made and put it into that. Stir it a little bit. That's all you do, stir it a little bit. And then you sit there and let it sit for 8 hours. You will have yogurt. But that first one you make from the cardamom is going to be a little strong in taste, and it's not going to quite look like yogurt and think you failed. You didn't fail. You just have to get to the next step, and then you'll have the yogurt that you're looking for. As long as you keep that yogurt going like the buttermilk, it will last for years because you keep on feeding it. Though you take from it, but remember, before you make a new culture, they cannot be contaminated. If the yogurt's contaminated or the buttermilk is contaminated, before you make your new batch, it's not going to work. So that's why I have the backup. So when I see that jar that we're using and it's getting low, I know they're going to hit that backup. My sons or I are going to hit it. So I automatically make another batch and put it, so when they hit that one, I've already gone into it and it's not been contaminated, and I can make a fresh yogurt. Okay, now these jars are going to sit for 20 minutes in here. Then I'm going to take them out, and then they're going to have to cool. Because like I said, this is a cold pack that we're doing, which is very different from others. All right, so when you're doing milk, heavy cream, or whey, it's always going to be a cold pack. All right, so I'll be back. Okay, it's been 20 minutes. We're going to get these jars out. Now I have to let these jars cool. While they're cooling, we go ahead and start to put the water canner together. Put them on a towel because your counters are always colder than the jar is going to be. So make sure they're on a towel, cutting board, something, so that they don't crack. Now, canning jars do wear out after a certain time frame, or how many times you use them. When one of my jars gets like that, I'll definitely show you what you have to look for, because I did have one jar where the glass was literally melting down at the bottom, down here, where you see the little knobs here. I didn't have that anymore. The glass was literally just melting. So these do take a lot of pressure, but there is a time when they are ready to break, and when you go through all this canning, you don't want to lose something. So I'll let you know when that comes around. Now we have to let these cool a bit. Or actually, we're going to cool them a whole lot. So I'm going to get my 2-quart measuring cup out, because we're going to have to put cold water into the pressure canner. And my pressure canner has given me instructions that I only fill it 3 inches deep, which is about 6 quarts so far, I think, if I remember correctly. And somewhere around 6 quarts. You get me right up to 3 inches. Now, according to your pressure canner, not a cooker, we're talking about a canner, you have to read those instructions to know what they want you to do with how much water you're going to put in. Mine's an All-American, and they say for this size, 3 inches. think this will be 3 inches, but I'm going to check just to make sure. So I don't know what kind of canner you have. So please read those instructions so you'll know exactly where you're at. Oh, I need more. 3 took me up to 3 inches. You see the water line is right there on the 3. All right, now in pressure canning, you cannot put jars on the bottom of this pot. They will crack and explode. You have to put a tray in. All American comes with trays. I have a tray. It's going in here. All right, because if you don't have a tray, you can go to Amazon and order them. Or I have not done this, so I don't know. But some people have said that they've had to put towels into the bottom to separate it. The jars have to be separated from the bottom of this pot. So that's what they say. But I have never done a towel, so I cannot vouch for it. But some people have stated they have used towels. Now, if you have a gasket, now a gasket is a rubber on your pressure canner. Every 3 times you use it, you're going to have to oil it or grease it, down with shortening to keep it flexible, because if it gets brittle and hard, it'll break it, then you can't use your canner, and then you have to order another gasket. But this way your gaskets will last longer. The All-American does not. It has a beveled edge. Actually, they have the beveled edge here. And what I mean by a beveled edge, I'll try to show you. You have the side of the the canner like that. It tilts at an angle like this before it goes over the edge. So it's a beveled. And this one, since I'm holding it, maybe you could see it. See how it is? It's not straight here. The bevels to go into it. That's why I like this one. Now, I have tried oil. It doesn't work for me, though they say you can use oil or Vaseline. I'm going to grease mine with Vaseline because I get a better seal on it. Every time I use the oil, I never get a seal on it. So you just take Vaseline and you rub around it. Because if you don't grease it, you're going to have a heck of a time getting the lid off. So it's very important that you grease it. And believe you me, I keep a screwdriver on hand with it, because sometimes I cannot get it off, and I literally have to take a screwdriver to get it off. I'd rather have a good seal than no seal. So I'm greasing all the way around. Putting it aside. Now, if you wish to can butter, that's another whole process. It's a little different. I might try it and show you how to do it, but that is a long process of canning it, because you have to melt it without burning it, and making sure you get the temperature right as you melt all that butter. So I usually, unless I run out of room in the freezer, I definitely will can butter. But I do make modified butter. So while we wait for these jars, everything is set now to can, but the jars are too hot. So we have to wait now. Okay, you know where you see the seam on the jar? You know the seam? Run your nail here. If it's smooth, your jar is fine. But if you get a snap, snap, snap with your nail, this jar would be ready to break. So you can use it for maybe dry goods or something, but don't use it for canning because it's getting ready. Now when I get a jar for the bottom, I'll show you that. But I want you to see that this seam is good. When it starts going click, click, click with your nail, your nail runs and you hear that snap of your nail going click, click over it, it means the seam is melting and getting ready to open. All right, my jars are cool, so we're gonna start filling our jars. I don't know how much weight I have, so I just did 4 quarts. I might only have 3, but I just don't know. Now you're going to fill your jars right to here. So that works for me when I have my jars, so that's why I'm saying right there. I do weigh. And this one will go in the refrigerator and I will bake with it. So this one will be on the side, because I don't have to hand this one. I know this is liquid and you're going to sit there and say, do I have to? Yes, you have to, because one thing I have noticed in this is little bubbles sit at the bottom. So we're still going to debubble it though it's liquid. You want to make sure, because if you have air pockets like that and you don't debubble, you can end up with a bunch of this in it. And that's not what you want. You don't want to kill your family. You want to help your family. Okay, real easy, 1, 2, 3. Now, we're going to use vinegar. Now, you don't want this if you're handling milk or heavy cream, so you might as well learn on whey. Is that you don't want to get the vinegar in it because it'll sour it up. So make sure you wring it out dry and wipe the rims down. The whole object of wiping the rims down is if there's any food or any particle or grease or something, it will not stick, especially when you start canning meals and stuff. And vinegar breaks it down so you don't have that grease on it, so that's the beauty of it. Sometimes I forget to do this till last minute. Take the extra vinegar, pour it in here. Now this is going to keep your jars clean. If you don't, they become extremely cloudy. And then they don't look appealing. And you do want your jars, even if it is whey, you want them to look nice. Now you'll notice your lids have a bubble on them. Do not touch that bubble. That bubble has to stand up right now. Now you only tighten these jars finger tight, because if you do it too tight, the jars cannot seal properly. What happens is the air, what little air there is in it, has to escape before that rubber melts. So it's pushing itself out. As that rubber gets hot, the air will be coming out, and then the rubber will seal. When you take them out of the canner, the bubble will still be up. But then, as those jars cool, that rubber and that bubble are going to suck to that lid the lid is going to stick to the jar, and that's how you seal it. That's why you let them sit till the following day before you check them. And by the way, canning came from dear Napoleon. We can thank that little guy because he was marching and he wanted to be able to feed his soldiers. So he said, whoever can invent a way. So it was his idea. Look, I need some help here. I need to have food that these people, my soldiers, can carry, you know, because they're not always guaranteed food on the line. Okay. Now, these are cold packs, but if they were hot, I'd be using my tongs. There's a marker on mine where the arrow matches up here. I have it in the back. I'm going to turn this around. Because this dent in here has to match up with my arrow, which is right here. If they don't match up, you can't do it. Now the thing and the trick is called American canner is to get these level. If you don't, air seeps out. Yeah, I know. So don't screw them on tight yet, just put them enough so they'll sit while you're doing this. You think we're right. Alright, now when you go to tighten these knobs up, go opposite each other. Remember, the pressure is going to lock it in as well, so don't go crazy tightening, but you do tighten them. Now, you have a gauge that reads, let me put my glasses on so I can let you all see so I can explain all this to you. I have a gauge here that's at 0. Then it goes 5, 10, 15, 20, and then it reads caution. All right, now this is your PSIs that we're actually going to be looking at. That's on your gauge here. And what that means is pressures per square inch. Now, according to your altitude dictates if you use 5 pounds per square inch or 10 pounds per square inch or 15 pounds a square inches. And this you have to find out. You'll have to Google to find out what your altitude is, exactly where you live. Google will have that information, and according to that, you sit there and you do that. Mine is 10, so I have to wait till this gauge will be getting up to 10. But right now we're going to have to vent this. So I'm going to turn this on high, and we're going to wait till it starts venting, and then we'll start doing what we have to do. You see that steam right here? And you have a steady stream of it. Clock it 10 minutes. And then what you're going to do is put your pressure gauge here on. All right, so we're just waiting for that to be a steady stream. Okay, it's been venting for 10 minutes. Now I'm going to put this on. And what's going to happen next is pressure is going to build up in here. When it hits, because my PSIs are 10. As soon as this gauge gets up to 10, I am going to turn this whole unit off, and I'm not going to touch it and let the pressure drop back down to 0. But right now we got to get it up to 10 pounds. Okay, you got the 10 pounds of pressure, or PSIs. I've just turned it off. It's going to set, and I'm going to wait for the pressure to drop back down to 0 here, and then we'll vent this. I took the vent off here, and now we're going to vent all this pressure. And when you quit feeling the air coming out, then we're going to open the container carefully to make sure nobody gets hurt. Okay, we're going to open it now. What you're going to do, opposite ends. Always use opposite ends to screw them down and to undo them. Now this lid is extremely hot. If you put it on the counter, you can burn your counter. So I would recommend putting it on a couple of mats or something to keep it up so it can air all the way around. Now when I open this, you have to open it away from you or you could get 3rd-degree burns from this. Be careful. When you open it away. Now you're not going to touch these jars until tomorrow morning. Though the bubble is standing up, this is for the new people. Though the bubble's standing up, they have to seal. This thing has to get cool. But as they cool, if you've done everything right, that seal will suck in. Well, the bubble will suck in. And the rubber will actually lock in. Now that's how you do the same candy for heavy cream and for milk and whey. They're all done the same way. Take care. Bye-bye.